agents under attack again. This was in Chicago on Saturday. They got a lot of problems in Chicago right now. Homeland Security officials say someone shot at immigration and enforcement customs agents who were making arrests, immigration arrests. And then the shooters drove off. A manhunt underway now. Federal agents also say their cars were rammed at least 4 times over the weekend. Now, remember what the border czar and others have called, the acting director of ICE, Todd Lyons, has called, that is a weapon of destruction, that violence of going into a vehicle. Rioters threw rocks, bricks, and paint at them, paint cans. DHS posted this incident as not as isolated and reflects a growing and dangerous trend of violence and obstruction. White House border czar Tom Homan.
The bottom line is the bloodshed is going to continue as long as the rhetoric continues, especially from members of Congress. It emboldens the bad guy to take actions against ICE and Border Patrol agents.
Now, a grave new threat against those agents. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin is in Chicago. Mike.
And Harris, violence and violence threats are indeed manifesting against the men and women enforcing immigration laws here in Chicago. That threat came in the form, at least they became aware of it, in the form of an internal memo that was sent out to Border Patrol agents, alerting them that the leadership of the Latin King street gang had put out a directive to shoot on site immigration officers and agents operating here in Chicago. Now, the shooting that happened, that was Saturday morning. We have pictures of the scene immediately afterward when a crowd showed up and Chicago police managed it. According to DHS, a black Jeep Wrangler drove up on agents, fired a few random shots, and drove off. A source tells me there are multiple agencies tracking the suspect. They got a lot of video from the scene and shell casings. Shootings in that part of town usually go unsolved, but the manhunt is now in full swing.
This coward is still at large. We have intelligence. We've been working with our federal law enforcement partners. We have quite a bit of information on this individual, and he will be brought to justice.
Has the operation done any good? Well, according to the mayor's own violence dashboard, since the start of Operation Midway Blitz, fatal shootings are down 34%. Robberies down 44%. Now, former Superintendent Gary McCarthy once told me robberies are the best indicator of crime impacting the average citizen because murders and shootings usually have a personal connection. All violent crime is down 28% in the city of Chicago. Now, there are a number of factors, including the cold weather, that will drive down the numbers. But when you look purely at the raw numbers themselves, they do, in fact, trend down since Operation Midway Blitz started. Harris?
Well, that is fantastic. And as you say that, it looks like it's snowing behind you. So, yes, that will be some help, but it doesn't completely snuff out crime. Mike Tobin, thank you. In focus now, Gianno Caldwell, Fox News political analyst. So it's making a difference having those agents on the ground. But you said that was what was needed to begin with.
100%. And, you know, when you think about these agents who were attacked, we should not be surprised. None of us should be surprised whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and Mayor Brandon Johnson had been setting the scene for weeks, telling people that ICE agents weren't welcome there and that they needed to push back on them. So I am not surprised whatsoever that there's people attacking ICE agents. And also, you remember just the first week of October when the police told other officers, the leadership in the Chicago Police Department told them to stand down and not respond to calls of ICE agents needing help. This is what it has been meant to be for weeks. Now, when it comes to the crime numbers, yes, absolutely yes. President Trump has said that they were going after the worst, which is what they've been doing. So crime will go down in Chicago, and I'm sure Mayor Brandon Johnson and J.B. Pritzker will take credit for it and not even mention Donald Trump, which this effort that they've been making will cause a reduction in crime. Harris.
Well, it was interesting. So Mike Tobin brought up the cold weather because we know crime goes up in the summer. So we know the statistics, but you're talking about a precipitous difference, and that's brought on by having more people on the ground who know how to fight crime and how to get the criminals off the streets. And that's what you have.
100%. And you also keep in mind, Chicago police has been in need of 2,000 police detectives to handle the current murder workload. They've needed other officers for other things. And now what you have is federal officers who come in, whether they be ICE, whether they be FBI, whether they be ATF, or DEA. There's an infusion of officers in the city of Chicago right now tackling many of these major issues that Chicago police have not been able to attack because they have been handcuffed by the mayor of Chicago. They were handcuffed by the previous mayor of Chicago as well. And of course, you can't forget about the sanctuary city policies and the end of cash bail that has happened in Chicago via the Safety Act. So, you know, there's been a lot of obstacles to create a safer Chicago put in place by those in leadership who have, quite frankly, been derelict in their duties, the mayor of Chicago, as well as the city council, who've enabled him. And then you got to think of Governor J.B. Pritzker as well. So there's been a number of obstacles, a number of challenges that have only created more victims of violent crime, Harris.
Yeah, it didn't need to happen. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says ICE has received more than 200,000 applications for those interested in becoming agents since the Trump administration launched its new crackdown efforts earlier this year. That is huge. And those are heroes. They're not going to back away. Gianno.
Todd Lyons has been doing an excellent job, the acting director of ICE. I know in the Big Beautiful Bill, I believe there's an allocation for 10,000 new ICE officers. So they have a big pool of folks that they can choose from. And I know they're looking for the best of the best to tackle this issue. And this is good news for our country because at the end of the day, as American citizens, we deserve safety and security. You keep in mind, a lot of these folks have come in from across the border, brought in drugs, fentanyl, enough to kill every American in this country. Many have also trafficked women and children, those kinds of things. There's been a scary nature to walk around certain cities, especially sanctuary cities, who've allowed these kind of things to fester without any accountability whatsoever. In fact, they fight ICE and others to pull them out of those particular cities. So they've created these conditions where criminality is the rule of the day, not the exception.
Gianno Caldwell, thank you very much for being in focus.
Thank you for having me, Harris.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.